Hello, welcome back to the insurtech podcast. Zoya here, and this week Robin is joined by Julian Schoemig. Julian's story starts in Munich, hustling boxing machines into pubs with a friend, a side gig that taught him one thing fast: business isn't done until the cash hits the bank. That lesson stayed with him throughout his career at Munich Re and ultimately led to Diesta, the company he co-founded to untangle the industry's messy web of payments and settlements. So why does insurance move money so inefficiently? Why do settlements still take months? And how do you build tech to fix a system that's been broken for decades? Stay tuned, pour yourself a coffee or tea, and now let's dive into the conversation.
Well, it's Sunday and it's insurtech podcast time again. My guest today is Julian Schoemig. He's the CEO and co-founder of Diesta. Julian, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Robin. It's a pleasure being here.
Now, you told me when we were preparing for this is your first ever podcast. Can I say that you've put yourself in very safe hands and I will treat you gently over the next 30 minutes or so?
That is much appreciated. I listened to pretty much every episode you've done on the insurtech show, and I've been as well an avid participant of the insurtech events. So, it's a real pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you. So I've got this far from your name and your accent that you're German, and I know you live in London these days. Tell us a little bit about the backstory. What's a German boy like you doing in London?
You're right. I'm from Germany. I'm from a small Bavarian town, which is in fact the largest manufacturer of ball bearings worldwide. So I think it doesn't come as much of a surprise that after school, I went on to study engineering at uni. I worked for Mercedes-Benz in India, with Volkswagen in Spain, around their process optimization in their workshop departments. And afterwards went on to study electrical engineering and finance. I then went on to work with the Munich Re for roughly half a decade, and I'm now the CEO and co-founder of a company called Diesta.
So do I get that right? You could have worked for Mercedes-Benz, you could have worked for VW, and you chose to come into insurance with Munich Re instead. Why?
Yes, really good question. My mom would have loved nothing more than me becoming an engineer at one of those large automobile manufacturers. But it was really the work I've done with my professor during my master's degree, which was focused around the efficiency of capital markets, where he got me really interested in the innovation potential of the insurance industry, recommended me on to the Munich Re, who offered me then a role in their aviation treaty underwriting department and gave me the promise to travel the world for the next roughly 5 years. And that's what I've done. I worked in Munich, New York, and London with the Munich Re in various different underwriting, innovation, and finance topics. I had a brilliant time and I got to learn the industry and the ins and outs. That was really my start into the insurance industry.
We're going to talk about Diesta in a minute, but what you've chosen to tackle is the whole issue of payments, reconciliation, settlement. How did you get from Munich Re, a marvellous globe-trotting role, down to payments?
That is really due to a personal experience I made during uni, where my mate and I were setting up a side hustle and selling boxing machines to pub owners in Munich. And after we've been running around pubs and finally got to a successful close, delivering the boxing machines that many of you would know from festivals, and get the deal handshake ready, the pub owners often promise to pay us within 2 or 4 weeks' time. And us being youngsters and being very trustworthy, we believed that, but we fairly quickly learned our lesson that not all of the money would come and some of the money would never come. The takeaway from that little side hustle was very clear for us that the business is really only conducted when the cash is in the bank account. And that really sparked a little personal ambition for me to focus on the payment industry. And when working with the Munich Re over those various different geographies and lines of business, I noticed very similar behavior than what we had in our boxing machine business. The people were very much focused on making the deal, getting the policy signed and the gross written premium booked into their systems, but they forgot about the cash coming. And that was often an afterthought, was being pushed into a back office function. And frankly, some people actually didn't care whether the cash would come or wouldn't come. And that is something that I think every business needs to do well. And hence, there is a personal passion of mine to focus on making those payments smoother.
You often hear that expression, a promise to pay. Ultimately, you pay your premium and you get some promise to provide a claims settlement in return in certain circumstances. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The industry is a fantastic industry. I love working in it, but ultimately we move data, we move money, and we are suboptimal at moving both. If we could just get better at both, it would be transformational. But I'm getting boring with that message. So let's hone in the problem. What is it that the insurance industry doesn't do very well? Or what is it about the insurance industry that makes payments and settlements such a problem?
Yeah, the insurance industry is very unique in the way it transfers money between its various different parties. It's using a cascading payment splits between the brokers, insurers, reinsurers that generate around twice as much volume of payments than most other supply chains out there. And so the fact that you have a single payment and multiple entities participating on those with independent source systems creates an operational nightmare in moving those funds, and the heavy use of intermediaries inflates the amount of payment volumes. So the intermediated insurance industry is roughly worth 1.75 trillion in gross written premium, but generates 7 times that amount in payment volume every single year. And that creates immense complexities and a unique challenge for the insurance industry.
I hear you, but you can't persuade me that the issue is unique. If I look at the travel industry and you deal with a travel agent, I think you pay them one vast amount of money and then some of that goes to the airline and some of that goes to a hotel locally and probably is behind the scenes as bad. I don't know. You're the expert.
Yes, no, 100%. Like the fact that there are multiple different parties on a given payment, that is universal across intermediated supply chains. However, what those supply chains have, which the insurance industry doesn't, is one source of the truth. When you book your travel on a given website, everyone feeds off that single information, and it's clear how much commission a single individual gets and how much money the other entities get. In insurance, that isn't the case because each intermediary and capacity provider feeds their own source systems and needs a check between those different source systems before the money can move. We might eventually get to the point where we'll have central accounting standards or like a single financial subledger to combine the entire distribution chain, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, good luck with that. How bad a problem is it? You hear some of these dreadful stats, particularly in the London market, about how long settlements are taking. You probably got some knowledge. Give us some idea of the metrics.
Yes, the settlement terms in the commercial insurance industry are painfully slow. And large carrier and broker is waiting on average between 6 and 9 months after a policy incepts to receive their premium payments or commissions respectively. Now that's over half of the policy life cycle that a service is being provided, i.e. the cover, but no money has reached any of the distributors or the capacity providers. At the same time, this means that between 55 and 75% of all receivables of any given organization in insurance are outstanding at any given point in time. That just shows you how much money is stuck in the insurance industry or simply not paid by the insureds upfront.
I can't believe those numbers. That's not an issue around, oh, you lose a bit of interest on balances that were otherwise sitting in some. That's almost like systemic. I can see why you're tackling this problem. Presumably it raises challenges and problems that go way beyond a bit of credit and a bit of credit risk.
100%. Like we're talking about a fundamental inefficiency in one of the largest financial markets out there. And as you said, that's a systemic problem that needs fixing. The insurance industry is rooted in trust, and there is a lot of trust that your distribution partners will eventually settle the funds to you. And they do settle to you. And today you receive the money that you've written a year or two ago, and the money will eventually come. And based on that trust, the insurance industry operates. But at the same time, this means as well a liquidity risk in case some large market movement was to happen and there was like a shortfall of your creditors, you'd have a problem. And what it means as well, that you're not managing your cash as well as you could. As you said, having billions of outstanding funds and at the same time many organizations have hundreds of millions of unallocated cash sitting in their bank account where they don't know what that money is for, and at the same time have the same amount of money as over-allocated payments against their policies where they receive payments they didn't even ask for from their distribution partner. All of that creates a fuzziness in the cash management of the insurance industry that exposes a systematic risk for carriers and brokers alike.
Does anybody benefit? Sometimes I look at these things which are systemic like that and I think to myself, they're like that because some party in the value chain is actually getting a benefit and there's no substantial reason why they would want to fix it. Is there a bit of that going on?
There might be, and that's how I started my journey in the insurance industry, chasing the finger, I would say. I'm not sure if that translates well to English, but there was a lot of finger pointing going on from the reinsurers to say it's the broker's fault, from the brokers to say it's the insurer's fault. The insurers blame the MGAs, blame the brokers. But over my 5 years in insurance and now the years with Diesta, I've seen that no organization has really figured out their payment flows significantly. And where you might blame other entities for not passing the money on, that's more due to the fact that they struggle to process those premium payments onto you in a timely fashion than their malicious or professional intent to earn an extra interest. Now, there is a lot of money flowing through the industry. As we said, 1.75 trillion in gross written premium generated every year. And that is stuck in various different accounts for a very long time. Now, that money generates an interest, but not as much interest as it could have if it was properly allocated, if it was properly processed, and it could be used into more powerful financial instruments or towards growing the business or your operation. So ultimately, there might be winners on the side, but if you set up the system right, everyone profits and no one will lose out.
I'm not sure I've ever asked 5 or 6 questions and set up somebody so well to explain what their startup business does. So that's the problem. Tell us about Diesta, which you founded in 2022. Tell us a little bit about how you founded it and the problem it solves.
Diesta is a specialized payment operations layer for the intermediated insurance industry. With our software as a service, we connect bank accounts, policy admin system, payment service providers, and third-party documents such as statements and remittances onto a single piece of tech. Now, that tech allows finance team to do their credit control, their reconciliation, and their payouts from a single source of truth. In very simple terms, Diesta is a tool to help the insurance industry move money between its partners. The idea really for Diesta came out of my experience in the insurance industry, and ultimately we got set up in an accelerator program here in London, where after the Munich Re, I joined a cohort of 60 aspiring entrepreneurs, where I met my brilliant South African co-founder, Chris, who is an exceptional technology talent and talent for building technology organizations. We got started, and by merely showing the current payment flows in the insurance industry, we raised £120,000 on the back of this accelerator program. We were the first company to get funding in our cohort, hence the name Diesta, which means the first in German and Afrikaans. And we're very proud of that moment and started from there on building our minimal viable product, getting our first test customers on board, which are now our long-standing partners and still with us, which is absolutely fantastic.
So you're another one that walked out of a nice, safe job with Munich Re into a startup, scratching past on £120,000 and an idea. That's very brave, and I'm always great admiring of people who do that. Were you always an entrepreneur in waiting, do you think? Were you always looking for a problem to solve because you always knew you were going to start your own business? Or did you stumble across the idea and think that's such a good idea, I'm going to start a business around it?
A little bit of both, but it was always my dream to become an entrepreneur. And for me, being an entrepreneur is not necessarily having a business. It's more about being able to fully commit myself to a challenge which I truly believe in a professional setting. So being from that small Bavarian town, having seen what good processes mean, and having seen as well how a niche product such as ball bearings, if done exceptionally well, can have an impact all across the world, I wanted to do something meaningful myself. And when I saw the insurance payment industry, after having studied finance, engineering, and my upbringing being very much focused on efficiency, I saw my shot. And at that point, with 29, I thought to myself, if not now, when? And just before I hit 30, I pulled the trigger and said I wanted to seriously try it. And I never looked back since then.
I think we need more of that good Teutonic thinking here in London to help us. This relentless drive towards doing things the right way, optimally, constantly searching for improvements is the key to running a successful business. It seems to me, without wishing to be too stereotypical, that it's something that's brilliantly engendered in a generation of Germans who can bring that then to these startup ideas. So you started this 3.5 years or so ago. Give us the progress report.
At the moment, it's going phenomenally well. We have a lot of momentum on our side. We're currently working with over a dozen clients, some of the largest carriers and brokers in the world, to some of the most nimble and tech-enabled insurtechs out there, all across the UK, Europe, and now as well the US. And we've built a phenomenal team focused around insurance, payments, and software, which I'm really proud of, and it is world-class. And with that team, we shipped some of the most exciting features this year. We developed a dedicated financial subledger specifically designed for the insurance industry. And we developed the capabilities to initiate payouts from the Diesta system straight out of the underlying trust accounts to make the money flow absolutely seamless end to end.
Who do you use for that? Is it you took Stripe, or was there some cool bit of tech that has revolutionized that too?
With Diesta, we're partnering with a whole range of different organizations, whether that is Stripe, whether it is premium financing providers, whether it is the best in breed policy admin systems, claims fund providers, and so forth. We really see ourselves as the finance connector between all of those different source systems to help the finance team build that single source of truth to be able to move money, regardless of whether the funds come via Stripe, via bank transfers, via remittance payments, whether you get a bordereau with your funds, whether you have to settle to one carrier, to 10, or anything in between. Partnerships are very dear to our heart, and I believe it's a brilliant time in the market to focus on partnerships.
Have you presumably got external investors now, and you went out and raised a bit of money?
Yes, that is absolutely right. We were extremely fortunate to attract investment from some of the leading US fintech VCs and raised so far a total of $6 million, of which $4 million was our latest seed round in October 2024. And we've already smashed through all of the goals that we set out for that funding round. So we are looking towards the next stage of growth, which might be coming very soon.
Well, no wonder you're smiling. One of the things that any investor would want to know is, what does the competitive landscape look like? Have you got any competitors who do this sort of thing?
Yeah, there are a few competitors out there. But before I dive into those, I would like to highlight as well what Diesta is not. Diesta is not a payment service provider. We're not a premium financing provider, not a provider of claims fund, and we're not a policy admin system. We do partner with all of those organizations, but we are a payment operations layer for the intermediate insurance industry. On that area, we compete against generic finance reconciliation tools that are deployed for decades already in the insurance industry, but who struggle to adopt their offering to that unique payment flow in the insurance industry that we described right at the beginning. So we already see a lot of traction of carriers and brokers and MGAs alike who really highlight the out-of-the-box specialization of Diesta for their use case, and that they don't have to explain to us how payments in the insurance industry flow and which edge cases there are. And so in that regard, I believe we have a superior offering and actually quite a unique offer in the market.
Based on that definition, this is very, very niche. It's a clear issue. You've got a solution. There are two ways to go from here. You could expand out, but I sense this has never been a better time to be really niche. There's more and more of a sense in which we're building, I'm using an overused word, ecosystems, and the ability to put things together for the common benefit that solve particular problems. And it's more and more about being specific rather than being horizontal. Is that, are you getting the benefit of that?
Yeah, I fully agree with your notion here. I see a huge trend towards further verticalization in the insurance software side, where right at the beginning, in the first wave of tech, we saw very generic applications being used in the insurance industry, which were then replaced around the change of the centuries with what we know now to be the policy admin systems. The first verticalized, specialized insurance tech being deployed, and very broad systems who were able to service the entire policy and claims life cycle for an organization end to end. What we see now over the last 5 years or so is that in the second wave of verticalized software and insurance, we see the modularization of those policy admin systems happening very fast. So the best in breed customer relationship management tools, quote and bind, underwriting workbenches, pricing tools, specialized claims platforms are popping up and are really providing a 10x better solution than traditional policy admin systems can with their a very broad approach. But all of those new technology providers need still a financial subledger to completely round off their functionality and be able to attract large organization enterprise clients onto theirs. And that's really where we plug in Diesta to partner with all of those organizations to rebuild the traditional policy admin system with a connected approach that is able to provide 10 times more value and automation for those particular entities than in the traditional sense.
So what do we expect next from Diesta? It seems to me you can go one of several ways. You can go broader in your functionality, or you can just go global domination, sticking to what it is you've got. Which is it going to be?
In our dream world, it will be a combination of both, naturally. But really, the focus for us is to build the best product around insurance premiums possible. So it's really around driving more product features in, bringing more AI features into our reconciliation engine, into the document ingestion, getting more regulations and certifications around our payment capabilities. And then lastly, trying to open up new markets and expand globally. So the focus really for us stands around driving more product innovation to so far a forgotten area of the insurance industry and build a tool that is too good to ignore for anyone out there.
So here's my last question. What does your mum think about all this? So there she was. She wanted you desperately to stay in Bavaria and work for VW or Mercedes. And you went off and became an entrepreneur at 29. Are you pleased? Is she pleased?
She's starting to understand what we're doing, which I'm very proud of. If you're being judged by how effective your investor pitch is, by whether your mom understands it or not, I need to put my hand up and say I'm not very successful. Those payment cycles in the insurance industry is really like a myth to most people standing on the outside. With the brands that we've been able to attract, my mom is starting to develop a sense for what we're doing and for whom we're doing, because she's starting to recognize those entities and what it is. So I believe it took her a few years to really come over that fact that I'm not going to be an engineer with any of the large German automobile manufacturers. But I think she has come around to that. And I hope to say that she might be fairly proud of what we're doing here at Diesta at the moment.
Well, she should be. I think you should be immensely proud. I think you've chosen something which is a genuine problem. It's almost like a case study in startups. Find an area of true potential, an area which is, if I may say this, it's so boring that people don't want to go there. That's part of the genius of this. It's an ignored or underappreciated issue because it's not shiny and new and exciting. I mean, it's the sort of thing that when you tell your friends at dinner what you do, they're all going to cloud over. But that of itself is the genius. And you've done it well. I think you should be immensely proud. You've heard enough of our podcast to know that sometimes ask this. Well, is there any last thought you'd like to leave the audience with?
And the last thought I'd like to leave the audience with is really the focus around cash in the bank. We're all doing a job to ultimately receive a salary that's coming into a bank account. And we as well like writing contracts and giving away insurance premiums to ultimately receive that cash into our bank account. Not good enough anymore to really just focus on a signature on a contract. Really, I would urge the industry as a whole to structure bonuses, to structure incentives, and to shift the mind really towards the cash that is in the bank account, because only then the business is really conducted. So if I had one message, get everyone access, visibility to the bank account of their respective organization and keep track of where the cash stands of the business you would have sold or underwritten.
It's a very good thought. Julian, it's been a pleasure. It's a great story. Thank you for all your support for Insurtech. We'll see you on Thursday at the show and tell. Nothing like seeing tech in action, be able to appreciate the true benefits of it. It's a very great pleasure to chat.
Likewise, it has been a true honor and great to be part of this forum, Robin. Really appreciate it.
See you soon.
Well, if you've made it this far, then I'm pretty sure you found that as interesting as I did. The insurtech podcast comes out every Sunday morning, where we spotlight the latest news, leading voices, and freshest updates across insurance that you need to know about. If you would like to take part in these conversations, head to www.insurtech.co to find out how you can join our network and be a part of the insurance intelligence for the curious.